We want to welcome here in studio Yariv Oppenheimer, Project Director of the Two-State Coalition, the Geneva Initiative, and Josh Hasten, International Spokesperson for the Gush Etzion Regional Council. Thank you very, very much, gentlemen, for joining us. We appreciate it. Well, let's begin with the latest. Yariv, Merav Michaeli, the Labor leader until this morning, resigning. According to all recent polls, not even passing the electoral threshold. It was in the stars to an extent, and yet it does seem to be some sort of a trigger to the race. If and when.
It is a trigger to the race, but I'm not so sure that the Labour Party will be the main platform for this race. We know about some other actors that would like to have their own party, and eventually there will be a united party, and the question will be who is going to lead it. So I'm not so sure that the race for the head of the Labour Party will be the big race of the opposition or even the left wing of the opposition in Israel. But still, it's an important event, politically wise, because Merav Michaeli was a symbol of the mistake that the left wing did, not united before the election, and eventually giving the result of the election to the right wing. Although they didn't overcome in a landslide, they got a much bigger majority because of the threshold. Therefore, I think it's a good sign, and hopefully it will also start a process of an election atmosphere all around the system, something that Netanyahu maybe will have difficult time to stop and to prevent.
Well, before we perhaps discuss a bit further what and how is a leftist revival going to look like, because obviously in the current state of affairs there's not much left of the Israeli left, if any at all. Josh Hasten, on the other side of the divide, the main focus is perhaps what's happening in the Likud party itself. A controversial budget, a route to second and third readings, and there are fears that that Likud members will vote against it.
Well, first, I'd like to say I think that your guest in studio, Yariv, I think he should take over the Labor Party, and I might disagree with 90 plus things that he says, but Yariv, now's your time, my man. Now's your time to start and revive your party.
If you have members of the Labour Party that are going to support me, let's talk about it after the interview, but it will not happen. Not this time.
We'll talk later, but in terms of the Likud and whatnot, again, the state budget at this point, from what I understand, can still be rectified. There can still be changes. I know that some of the Likud members are upset by the current arrangement, and the first reading of the bill passed, and I know Nir Barkat and others, but they can make some changes and come to compromises. Listen, as we're talking here, this is all politics right now, and the state budget has to be passed, and we're in the middle of the war, and I have no doubt it will be passed. So they can make some revisions, they can make some changes, and I think at the end of the day, even those Likud members who are opposed at this juncture, I have a strong feeling they will go ahead and sign off on the second and third reading when push comes to shove.
We're speaking about politics, but we need to be clear. Politicians are the one to win this war. Politicians are the one to make the decision whether to continue fighting or to stop in order to release the hostages. Politicians are making the decision who will get money in this very difficult year ahead. So it's about politics. We cannot just ignore politics. Politics, it's not just a game of power. It's also our life. And what we are seeing from this coalition and from this budget is that this coalition is obligated to survive. It's not obligated to the Israeli society in such a crucial time. And this is what we see from the budget. The budget is going to serve the political allies of Netanyahu in order for him to survive as prime minister and not to have an early election. This is unfair. This is not the right thing to do for the Israeli public. This is not the right thing to do for Israel in the middle of the war, to have such a budget that neglect the people that needs the support and the funding, and giving the money to the Orthodox religious, to the settlers, to the people
and
that politically Netanyahu depends on them.
And the ultra-Orthodox and the religious Zionism, they all deserve their chunks of the share, and yet, Mr. Hasten, we keep on talking about this misconception that got shattered, this October 6th state of mind and October 7th state of mind. When it comes to the budget, it seems that it's a budget that is relevant to October 6th.
Well, let me just say for the record, I think it's extremely important. You mentioned the funding for the Jewish communities of Judea and Samaria. I think that's integral right now. And we saw what happened on October 7th, and the security needs are great of the entire state of Israel. And of course, Judea and Samaria, God forbid something should happen again. And the way to prevent that is to fund the communities of Judea and Samaria, which are overlooking Tel Aviv and are overlooking Ben Gurion Airport, where 75% of the population lives from Gadara to Hadera. So it's extremely important. I agree 100% with Minister Smotrich that we need funding in Judea and Samaria. You can go up to places like Alfei Menashe and see the planes landing at Ben Gurion Airport, and then you realize how important it is that those communities have security. We are overlooking and protecting Tel Aviv from up above, and that's why it is essential that our communities are protected. So as far as that goes, I 100% agree with Minister Smotrich that our communities certainly need that funding for the well-being and the welfare of the entire state of Israel.
No, but it's not just for security, it's for much more than that. Security is there, we got the army there. We can argue about whether the settlements are given security or we have to pay for the security, and they are just taking the needs of the Israeli army like we saw on October 7. But let's be honest, we are not talking about now security budgets. We are talking about civilian issues, we are talking about religious issues, we are talking about political money that is getting into political ministries. It's not about saving the life of the settlers, or not even the saving of the life of people in Tel Aviv. And you need to look at the picture, and you need to look what's going on in the south next to Gaza. These communities are devastated. The kibbutzim are totally destroyed. They need the support, they need the assistance, not the settlers that every year they are getting more than the average Israeli. And now even during the war, when we have people in need, the settlers are not saying, okay, we are ready to get only what we deserve. We want to get more, and this is what we are seeing. And I think that the public is looking, and the settler leadership, including Smotrich, will pay the price. According to the polls, he's not going. He's not overcome the threshold, and he has 0 mandate according to the latest poll. Not by mistake, I think.
I would just say to that nobody in Judea and Samaria that I know of is overlooking the needs of those in the north. And of course, we're not overlooking the needs of those in the south who lost so much, who lost everything. But as I said before, at the same time, we have to remember that we cannot let another October 7th happen. And the best way to do that is to ensure that the coastal plain is protected. And the way to do that is to protect from above, to protect the communities of Judea and Samaria, both with the military army presence and with the civilian presence. Look what happened. We left Gaza, pulled every last citizen and every last soldier out in 2005, and look where we are today. Look what happened at the border, on the border communities. So
look what happened that we didn't solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Look what happened when you are in charge. Your government, your leaders, you are the only one. It's a full right-wing government. This is not in your shift. This is in your decades, because it's not my policy that was failing. It's your policy. My policy is not being even tried. We are trying your policy not to solve the conflict, to ignore the Palestinians, to think that we can lock Gaza, to put it under siege for more than a decade, and to believe that things will be better. This is the conception that totally collapsed, and we need to look about other solutions, to speak with the PA, to speak with the Palestinian moderate side, with the moderate Arab countries, with the United States, and eventually to change the policy and to have an agreement with them, not to continue the conflict like you are suggesting.
I don't see the moderates that you speak of, when over 75% of the PA Arabs said that they supported what happened on October 7th. They support Hamas. and they support the terrorism. So I don't see any moderates here. We've tried that before. Remember the Oslo process way back in the 90s. We tried negotiating with the PA, see where that led to. That led to the pullout from Gaza. That led to the situation we are today. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Well,
I don't think we should go down that path once again.
I doubt that we will be able to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict at the moment. So let's do try perhaps to solve some political questions, gentlemen. And this is perhaps a mix of what we've been discussing here. There are now calls for religious Zionist youth groups to help revive the Gaza border communities alongside those kibbutzim who were hard hit, of course, during the massacre. Josh Hasten, what do you make of it?
Well, I would say now, unfortunately, as a result of October 7th, I mean, there is some good that came out of it, unfortunately, as a result of that, but we are united now more than ever. So whether you're talking about religious youth groups or secular youth groups, we're seeing the people of Israel come together like never before, and perhaps like never before in the history of the Jewish people. So I don't think it matters whether somebody's wearing a kippah or is not wearing a kippah. If somebody wants to go down and help the residents of the South, whether they're religious, secular,
for sure. I was alluding to something more organized. That is, of course.
Let's be honest. It's a very cynical initiative that is trying to take advantage of this terrible situation and actually to take over these communities. We need to speak about values, and the values of these communities, that the kibbutz movement and the people that are more supporting of the idea of human rights and even peace, it's contradict to the religious values that are being inflected by the National Zionist. Therefore, to take advantage of their misery and to try to take over their communities and to establish a new community with a totally different values, this is unfair understatement. It's even worse than unfair, and I hope that the right wing will understand that it's not done.
That's absolutely ridiculous. That's like saying the Chabad guys shouldn't go to Tel Aviv and offer people to put on tefillin. This is not an issue of trying to take advantage or steal people's minds. These are holy individuals who are in the midst of a war, actually putting themselves in harm's way, willing to go down to the South under rocket fire and show solidarity with their brothers.
This is fine. If they are coming for 1 day to help, it's okay. But if they want to rebuild the communities and to create a different one...
No, we're not talking about a volunteering program. And gentlemen, unfortunately, we don't have...
Nobody's proselytizing here. Nobody's proselytizing. People want to help in so many different ways. We've seen it helping soldiers, helping residents. We've seen it all over the country like never before. Of course,
the volunteering spirit is across the board, crossing sectors. This is for certain, no doubt about that. The discussion was surrounding something more organized or government-led even. And gentlemen...
No ulterior motive. No ulterior motive here. That's all I'll say.
No, fair enough. Just wanted to clarify it on my end.
Sure.
And gentlemen, we don't have much time, but the bottom line seems to be clear. This sense of unity that swept across the country might not be translated into the same sense of unity politically speaking. Josh.
Yeah, maybe not politically speaking, but again, I just reached out to Yariv and I sincerely said he should run for government. So, and that's out of sincerity, even though I disagree with him. I think the unity goes above and beyond politics. Of course, there are going to be disagreements with the budget. It's still a country. You still have different ideologies, different positions, left, right, center. That's why you have so many parties in this country. People have different opinions. But right now, as you started off by saying, we do have to pass the state budget, but we should put those differences aside and we should focus on brotherhood. And Yariv is my brother, even though I disagree with, again, 90+% of everything he's saying. But this is where we are right now. Let's show the light to the rest of the world.
But I think
let's unite, folks.
After such a catastrophe, it's very clear for any Israeli that we need to go for an election after the war. And if the Prime Minister will say out loud, I understand that we need to really gain the trust from the public, and we will go for an early election, you will see the unity continue. But this prime minister is saying, no, I'm going to continue to be the prime minister, and how I'm going to do it, although I know that the majority of Israelis doesn't want it to happen, I'm going to give my partners money from the budget and to buy their support.
Gentlemen.
This is not uniting Israeli society.
Josh Hasten, Yariv Oppenheimer.